So for the Buffalo Bills in the 2024 NFL season, Josh Allen needs to step up. That's not a shot at Josh Allen or saying he hasn't done that thus far, but with the situation now, what's going on in Buffalo with the departure of Stefon Diggs and Gabe Davis, it is a huge void in the wide receiver group. And we'll get to this rankings in a second, in Bills Central, what they ranked the wide receivers in the Bills room thus far. I want to get to my tweet, and it's tough to just kind of put it all together in one tweet because of the limited characters you can have. Of course, I could have just tagged more into it, but I just wanted to keep it short and simple. Josh Allen needs to step up this season. With Diggs and Davis gone, there's a huge void to wide receiver room. A rookie is your number one wide receiver, Samuel being a wide receiver 2, and a big drop off in depth. One area he needs to improve on is interceptions. He has to go back to 2020. 37 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. That was his breakout year. And surprising, that was also Stefon Diggs' first year as a Bill when they traded for him in the offseason. He had fantastic stats, and since then, Allen has had 14 interceptions in 2021, 15 interceptions in 2022, and then jumping up to 18 interceptions in this past year. So no doubt it's high. Now, I'm not going to say, Josh is a turnover machine. He's reckless. There are times he is reckless, and there are other times for the interceptions that it's not his fault, where there was definitely one I can point to with the Denver game where he threw a perfect ball to Davis' hands. He just bobbled it, and it went up the air, and so on and picked it off. There's been instances of that happening, but there are times, yes, where Josh Allen does play reckless. A perfect example is week 1 against the Jets, where he threw in the double coverage every single time in those interceptions. He cannot do that. He cannot do it this year with with not having a true number one wide receiver as of right now, and with Gabe Davis, who many people do believe was a good wide receiver too. So now we get to what the wide receiving room is for the Buffalo Bills, and it's kind of ranking them, at least for Bills Central, what they have them ranked thus far. Number 1, Curtis Samuel, and I think that should already tell you right then and there how bad the wide receiving room is right now. There's definitely a lot of pieces that I like and I think that will do well, but just looking at looking on paper and how people perceive the Bills, if you see Curtis Samuel as a number one wide receiver, that's scary. It is. Now, Curtis Samuel did have his career best with Joe Brady in Carolina in 2019, where he had almost 900 receiving yards, but still, I mean, with this caliber of team and the aspirations of a championship and going far in the playoffs, it's still still a standard. It's scary. That's definitely a huge step back going from Stefon Diggs to Curtis Samuel. So they have Curtis Samuel ranked number 1. Next, they have Khalil Shakir, which I do like. I think he's going to have an amazing season this year. I do believe he'll go over 1,000 receiving yards. That's me, especially when you saw late in the season, especially in the playoffs, the plays he made, the catches. It really showed that he definitely, as the season went on, progressed and got better. He did have a rough offseason last year, which many people were thinking he was going to get cut or traded. There was certainly that possibility of that. The Bills kept him, thankfully, and then again, towards this end of the season, he really stepped up and outperformed Diggs in a lot of games and made a lot of big plays. So no doubt, Khalil Shakir, I think, will be the wide receiver that's going to be heavily relied on this season, even though they did have Curtis Samuel ahead of him. I just think with Khalil Shakir obviously just being there longer and knowing, having chemistry with Josh Allen for a couple of years now, this is the guy you're gonna have to lean on, no doubt. Next one is rookie wide receiver Keon Coleman. He has all the physical talent, 6'4", 213, great contested catching, great size and everything. There are some concerns with him having a limited route tree, concerns of separation, and also the speed. People point towards obviously the infamous 40-yard dash where he ran a 4.65 when you had defensive players, defensive ends running faster 40-yard dashes. I think one that Dolphins fans like to compare is Chop Robinson, that had a faster 40-yard dash than Keon Coleman. But when Keon Coleman did the catch and drills and so forth, his speed was up there in the draft and in this year's draft class. So in terms of the 40-yard dash, not tests well, but that's the thing that people are looking at. Just 4.65, that's very concerning for his size. Again, lack of separation, that's the problem he also had. Limited route tree. So no doubt Keon Coleman, even though they do have Samuel as the number 1 wide receiver in this page, Keon Coleman will be the number 1 wide receiver going into the season. He will be the X receiver, and it's scary. Going back to the tweet, it's having a rookie wide receiver that's has a talent, and I think he will have a solid rookie season. But it's gonna be a work in progress. It's not gonna. It's similar to what we said about Curtis. It's a huge step back going from Stefon Diggs to Keon Coleman. It is different type of players. Obviously, a bigger receiver, but it's not the fluid route runner, great separation that Stefon Diggs did for many years in Buffalo. It's starting to cross over, and he's a young guy. He's 20 years old right now, so it's gonna take a while. Maybe in 2025 he takes that jump and becomes that next true number one wide receiver. But this year there's gonna be growing pains. It's not gonna be smooth and how it was. The offense is gonna be how it was the last few seasons. But you have Keon Coleman 3, Matt Collins, which I'm not too crazy over it. And I think this is where the huge drop off I talk about depth really comes in after the 3 wide receivers, which Shakir, Coleman, and Samuel, they're solid, not horrible. So I don't think it's a bottom 3 or bottom 5, I should say, wide receiving core. I think at the best case scenario, it's mid tier if you really want to push it. But this is where I have really problem with Matt Collins, Justin Shorter, who I want to see get a huge opportunity to see how he does in his first year really being healthy. In his rookie year coming out of Florida, he missed the season with injury the whole year. So I want to see what he does in his first full healthy season in his second year. Yeah, next you have KJ Hamler, Tyrell Shavers, Andy Isabella, Quintez Cephas, Brian Thompson, and the infamous great signing we had yesterday in Chase Claypool, or excuse me, 2 days ago in Chase Claypool. It's just not good enough. I'm sorry, it's just not good enough to get this done. And this is where, and this is not a cloud, including tight ends as well, because we also have Dalton Kincaid and Dawson Knox, which really that's why I say mid tier at best, because that really elevates it, because you have 2 solid wide receivers. I'm also expecting a big year for Dalton Kincaid as well. I think Shakir and Kincaid will be heavily relied upon and will have heavily have the most targets and receptions, I think, out of the whole receiving core. But again, it's Josh Allen has to step up. When you go to his stats, again, it's 18 interceptions. My bad, I had them switch. So 15 interceptions in 2021, 14 in 2022. But I mean, still, it's, for me, 2021, 22, I don't consider horrible. It is a little bit of a concern. I want to get back to the 2020, 37 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. That is respectable. That is something that people would finally get off of Josh's back for if he had 10 interceptions at most in this upcoming season. I think it would really show him a huge improvement going from 18 to 10, certainly. But this is what you need. You can't take as many chances. Also on the defensive side too, it's rebuilding. A lot of young pieces now. A lot of big name departures leaving this offseason with Micah Hyde, Jordan Poyer, Tre'Davious White, and the list goes on and on with the big names. Also with the other key pieces leaving as well with Floyd. Thankfully you were able to bring Espinosa back in and Daquan Jones, but still, I mean, this is a kind of somewhat of a mini rebuild this year, and no doubt Josh Allen has to play better. Certainly, I am not saying to take away his explosiveness and his big time playing ability, because it's a double-edged sword. You get the amazing touchdowns, amazing plays, but also in return you get the dumb interceptions, the reckless plays. But I think Josh Allen is gonna have to try and find a way where he can maximize still the big time potential, and also try and limit the touchdown or the interceptions. Again, 2020 is a perfect example: 37 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, and also to pair up with 8 touchdowns in that year as well. I mean, has had well over 40 plus total touchdowns in the year and 9 interceptions. I mean, this is the year that's the year that we needed Josh Allen this year in 2020. We can't have another 2023 season, even though he was up there for some of the statistics with 4,300 rush passing yards, 29 touchdowns, total touchdowns. He definitely was number one with that. But again, it's just the big thing is just interceptions. It's going to be this offense is going to be a work in progress. You're not going to have veterans on there. It's a new team. You are the leader. You are essentially the oldest guy. This is not me counting offensive lineman. I'm just saying as a leader for that for the weapon they have an offense. He is the oldest guy on there. He is the one that has to lead this group and command this offense, and he has the one that has to really take us another step up in his game, in his career, and really prove people wrong. There's a lot of people doubting him, no doubt, with Stefon Diggs going. Many people say Stefon Diggs made Josh Allen. You look at the stats, even though 2019 was solid, no doubt. He took a huge jump with Stefon Diggs in 2020. But for me, I do believe he doesn't need him. Does that help to have someone like that? Absolutely. It helps anybody to have a caliber of Stefon Diggs at that time. At that time, we'll see how Stefon Diggs is now with the Houston Texans, with his age, and also with Tank Dell and Nico Collins. We'll see what he can do with that. But going back to a prime 27-year-old Stefon Diggs would help any wide receiver. But I think Josh Allen, in the career he's at now, and the age he is now, and what he's done to really improve, he has that capability of still leading this team to a playoff, a division title, and going into the playoffs and potentially going far. But it's going to be on him. Maybe it's unfair once again to ask that of Josh Allen, but that's the case this year. He needs to cut down on the turnovers because it's gonna if he has another 2023 season with the turnovers, we're not going to win. You look at the rest of the division, the AFC. I mean, just look at the division with the Jets, how much better they've got. The Dolphins did lose key pieces, but they still have Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, Raheem Mostert, David A-Chain. So they still have a great offensive core there. New England Patriots are rebuilding, but I do think they will be a tough team this year. Whether it's going to be Drake May or Jacoby Brissett starting the season, and the countless AFC teams, the Bengals, Ravens, Steelers, Browns, Chiefs, the Jaguars, the list just goes on and on. Josh Allen needs to have practically an MVP season. And maybe you could argue he did have an MVP season in 2023, but certainly he was up there in 2020. He needs to have the same exact, or if not better, stats in 2020, I think, to really prove people wrong and to really elevate this team, no doubt, to go far. Because if he can't, it's gonna be how it was last year, halfway through the season, 6-6, 6-7. I think we were at one point. It's in the middle of the pack. It's gonna be scary. There's gonna be a lot of tension, and if it gets back to that point once again, there's gonna be a lot of people calling for Sean McDermott to lose his job and Brandon Beane, and it's gonna be a very tough year. I think it's definitely the most challenging year for Josh Allen because it's a new phase in his career. It's a new phase in his offense, but he's gonna have to be the one to be the leader, to step up and really take Keon Coleman under his wing and help and have the growing pains, but also to trust him, and as well as to really rely on Khalil Shakir and Dawson and Kincaid, and Dawson Knox. These are the people he's gonna have to rely on. But at the same time, too, again, he has to really fix things in his game and really elevate himself to get this job done.